In this video, I'm going to examine the myth and the reality behind the supposed global pilot shortage. Back in 2015, Boeing predicted that the global aviation industry would need over 600,000 pilots in the years ahead. Boeing then revised their initial estimates, and the results were published in the 2016 Boeing Pilot and Technician Outlook. However, this was of course 4 years before the decimation of the global aviation industry during the coronavirus pandemic of 2020. In 2020, we saw airlines collapse with the inevitable redundancies for aircrew, cabin crew, and all other staff. Many of those that survived also shed employees during restructuring. Despite all this, there will be a demand for new pilots in the years to come. In a report published on Statista.com on the 7th of October 2020, it was estimated that the global aviation industry would need 763,000 new pilots between 2020 and 2039. These figures include 248,000 in Asia, 208,000 in North America, and 147,000 in Europe. Before 2020, there was buoyant growth in the industry. Cleaner, quieter, more efficient aircraft are being designed and produced. Demand for both passenger and cargo traffic was increasing. For every aircrew, there is also a requirement for a proportional number of cabin crew. For every aircraft in the air, there is a need for aircraft engineers to maintain the fleet. So the combined total was estimated to be 2 million new commercial airline pilots, maintenance technicians, and cabin crew between then and 2035. This figure can be broken down into 617,000 new commercial airline pilots, 679,000 new maintenance technicians, and 814,000 new cabin crew. Although this sounds like a huge figure, it's a total for the global aviation industry over 20 years. For example, they estimated that Europe would need about 5,000 new commercial pilots per year by 2035. This would mean that European airlines alone would need about 95,000 new commercial pilots between 2015 and 2035. The financial crash of 2008 and the subsequent stagnation in the industry, combined with increased retirement age, meant that many pilots kept flying but with no pay increases. For some, the only way to keep flying was to accept a pay cut. However, the number of commercial licenses being issued in Europe was falling. This of course meant that there would not be enough pilots to replace those who do eventually retire. And it also meant there was a possibility that there would be a shortage should the airline industry expand again. Let's have a look at the effects of the pilot shortage around the world. The pre-2020 shortage of pilots did have an impact. In Australia, regional airlines were already cancelling both flights and entire routes because there were not enough pilots to fly the aircraft. India's Go Air considered leasing out some of its new Airbus A320neos because it didn't have enough type-rated pilots to fly them. In America, the number of commercial pilots decreased by 30% over the past 30 years. Smaller regional airlines are losing pilots to the larger companies who offer higher salaries. The Canadian Council for Aviation and Aerospace predicts that the industry will need 7,300 additional pilots by 2025. Smaller airlines and bush pilots in the north of Canada are losing pilots to larger airlines, and not enough new pilots are coming on stream. And the effects of the pilot shortage are being felt more keenly in the Middle East and Asia. So what opportunities are there for new pilots? Post-2020, many will assume that the demand for new pilots will decline. But for would-be airline pilots, it's worth remembering there will be a recovery and airlines will start recruiting again. A fresh, frozen ATPL is no guarantee of employment even in a time of demand for pilots. Some pilots will still need to gain experience with smaller regional airlines at first. As the larger airlines poach pilots from the smaller carriers, opportunities are likely to appear. On the other hand, some will be able to take advantage of recruitment drives by the larger airlines. This may include some training sponsorship programs. Airlines are also drawing experienced pilots out of flight schools. This is creating a shortage of flying instructors. So there is also an increasing demand for flying instructors and chief flying instructors. In conclusion, yes, there will be opportunities for new pilots, cabin crew, and engineers. However, much will depend on where you live. You may need to live abroad at first in order to catch the wave. One thing seems certain though, now is an excellent time to learn to fly.